Alrighty, guys. So as we wait for people to come in with your questions, as usual, we'll start out with a little preamble, as I usually do here. So, I want to say that you guys that are one of the most basically the most common reason why people struggle to make their PPC advertising work, particularly Google search ads. I know most of you guys are interested in that, and that's also a lot of what I cover, and they kind of go hand in hand. 90% of it comes down to, yes, of course, the strategy, the tricks, the tricks of the trade, all the tips that I give you, it makes a tremendous difference. No doubt about it. But the competition level of the market that you're in, that you've chosen to be in, is pretty much everything. You can be a total beginner at running ads. Never ran an ad in your life. You can take a credit card, set up a basic PMAX campaign, and start making money tomorrow. Profit after expenses, just by being in a market that doesn't have very much competition in it. Bottom line, you could have 5 years of experience running PPC ads at an agency, get into a market like, let's say the taxi space. You will probably not make any money, because it's like you're competing against Michael Jordan when it comes to your ad strategy, and it's just not going to work. Really, it's like going from competing in high school basketball to the NBA. Going from trying to market something in a market like motorized shade installation, where there might be 2 companies in a whole city that does that, to the taxi company situation. So I say all this to say, well, you should be saying, well, Corey, well, I can't do anything about that. I'm in the market that I'm in. Okay, fine. If you're really committed to your market, then you watch the hell out of our videos on this channel, and it tells you how to win. It may take you hundreds or 1,000+ hours or whatever to watch them all, to know all the little tricks that I've picked up over the last 20 years to win automatically. And you could go that route. However, the better, easier route, in my opinion, is to pick some other market to be in. Now, if you've got $1 million invested in a dermatology clinic that you already have, you're kind of stuck. But if you are not that far into the system, or maybe you are into a market where you can't really move around, I would rather start something in a parallel market and get that going on the side and just maintain what I got, than trying to become literally a PPC god to make your ads work in a market that's just too competitive. And for that matter, I mean, like, even with whatever level of skill that you're at, you're going to scale 10 times quicker in one market over another. It's really that simple. I could be in a market where we've got a really unique product that there's a really high demand for in the market. I can get profitability in a week, and I could scale it up to where it's producing, several $100,000 a year in profit in a year. Or you could take something super competitive with really entrenched players that have been around a long, long time, like printer toner sales, which anybody could sell that. They just go to a Chinese vendor, buy a box of toner, and they're in business. And it will take me 10 years to get to that same level. Consistently, results are consistent. So why am I going to put myself through that extra hell when it's literally easier to just get into a different market? I'll save 5 years of time, 10 years of time building up to the same thing. Why would I want to do that? It doesn't make any logistical sense when you look at it from a high level in the way that I just described. So, and for that matter, this is not a sales pitch. This is not an advertorial, but we've got hundreds of ad templates at our firm of whether you're talking about doing wheelchair ramp installation services, which basically nobody does in pretty much all markets out there, home elevator installation, whatever it is that you could start up today, something that will be profitable next week. And you didn't even have to even know how to build the campaigns because you've got a finished product campaign that you can copy paste into your account today that'll start working tomorrow. And you've simplified the process of getting in business. You don't have to wonder if something will work. It just works. You know that going in, and you already know how to market it. So 90% of what you need to do to be successful in that business, minus finding employees that are not going to rip off your customers or do a shitty job, it's all done for you already. So I don't care at all if you buy our template or not. The main point here was to say that you should pick your battles. When it comes to getting into business and running ads, you can learn how to be the best PPC marketer in your niche market, or you could just pick a different niche market, which has little to no competition, and make just as much money with a way less effort. So whereas it really helps us with you guys that are in a market and you're like, no, I have to make this work. This is our family's business. We've been in business 90 years. I have to make this work. That's my client. For somebody just starting out today in business, or, struggling and been in business 6 months, I'm going to go and look at my list of niche markets that's hundreds long. And I'm just going to pick one that looks interesting, that has a working template. And I'm going to start there. And I've got, videos about, how to find niches that I just put out not too long ago. There are so many sub niches that are totally untouched that you literally, if your IQ was 70, you could set up a campaign today and make money tomorrow on, because nobody's thought to set up a specialized website catering to that sub niche with testimonials and whatnot on there that, people only offer as one side service as a part of a main business that they have, that clearly it doesn't look like they specialize in it. So the summary of everything I just said is you should really think about all possibilities for your business. The more outside of the box you think about what you're doing, the better off you're going to be at least in the long run. Even Warren Buffett said, if he would have started off in the commodities business, he wouldn't be as rich as he is today, because he picked a different investment vehicle to be in. And I know that's not exactly the same thing as what I just said. The same principles apply, right? Like what is going to get me to my end destination quicker? Everybody wants to know what's that one ad that you could run that's going to just explode their business. Most of the time there isn't one, but if you could still explode your business if you just pick a different thing to market that people want and that the market's underserved currently. Or you take the harder path and putting together the right ad strategy and get into what you want and that you're passionate about. Not to say either is bad, but if your goal is making money and making a lot of it and quickly, it's usually easier to just pivot to something else that has an underserved market and just start serving it. So with that said, I'm going to get into the usual questions. V4X, hey, thanks for showing up as usual. Cruelzol, favorite part of the week. Great. I'm great that it's great that this is the highlight of your week, at least somewhat. Mustafa, hey, great to see you again. Nice picture of a cat. Looks like your cat is laying on a pillow in front of your computer. How professional is that? Carousel, as an affiliate, should one focus on one market like ED or TRT and telehealth? Being an affiliate, so if I thought being an affiliate was good, I would just do that. I wouldn't run a PPC agency, because the appeal of being an affiliate is high, because like people that are pitching faceless YouTube channels and whatnot, people don't want to interact with anybody. They just want to sit behind a computer and make money. Not to say you can't. People do all the time. But it's damn hard to make money as an affiliate if you're not doing either semi or fully shady stuff to generate cheap traffic. That's kind of the way that it is. So and when I say semi-shady stuff, I mean, the general premise of affiliate marketing is to send people to a landing page that misrepresents a product in some way to make it seem more appealing than it is, and get people to click through that page and go to the actual offer, of which doesn't say any of that, but they now think that that product has those features because the preliminary page you sent them to does say it has those features. Therefore, essentially they're able to get somebody to do something they wouldn't have otherwise done. I don't want to do that personally. And, instead of affiliate marketing, much better is drop servicing. Or drop shipping, because you get bigger margins. Instead of making 4%, you're making 10, 20%, maybe even 30%, depending on what market you're in. And, but it takes more involvement, right? You got to answer phone calls. You got to do all this, but in 10 years of people reaching out to my firm, how many people that I know, affiliate marketers that make money, it's less than 10. Whereas there's way more drop shippers that are able to run and buy traffic and make things work. So my general opinion would be to do drop service or drop shipping, not affiliate marketing. And then if I were to do one of those, either of those honestly would work. Ultimately, I'm going to generate the lead. I'm going to pre-qualify the lead. I'm going to have a mini call center, and I'm going to ask them a series of questions as soon as they fill out a quiz or some sort of form, asking them, are you basically the right candidate for this? And then I'm going to hot transfer them to a clinic, and I'm going to charge them per hot transfer, A, because they can charge more, but also B, because they're really shitty at sales. So I'm not going to give them a chance to say my leads are shitty. We've sent them a hot transfer of somebody ready to book an appointment. They can't say the lead's shitty anymore, no matter how much they want to sometimes, even still. Caruso, how do we know if a market is too competitive to abort? So, some markets, it'll take 18 months before you're profitable running ads, like legitimately. Something like, standing desks. It just takes forever because it's so saturated. You think you're going to get in there and just start selling your stuff with no data behind your campaigns when your competitors have millions of dollars of data racked up in their account. Forget about it. Whereas if you market a new item that's clearly visually, when you look at it, 10 times better than the existing competition, you can make it work in a week. So it's not about abort, not abort. It's just, how bad do you want to be in that market is what I would say. Also, though, how much money you have. So for me, I don't care if you're telling me I can make $1 million a year off of this and it takes 10 years to get there. I don't give a shit if it's going to take 10 years because I want that million. The reality is, if you don't make money now, you don't want to wait that long. But also, most importantly, you probably only have so much money to get something working. And in that case, you're better off in a smaller, underserved market by and large. That pool leak detection service that nobody in your whole city has a service doing that, but there's certainly tons of people that have that problem, that you can look like the number one guy in the space with, spending $500 on a website and set up a campaign today and get some and start making money today. Ultimately would be just one example. So it's about the amount of resources. And I've talked about this concept, how, people get the average normies person's idea of getting in business is obscene. Oh, I need money to start a business. I don't have money, therefore I can't start a business. Well, there's tons of businesses you can start with $5 if you wanted to. They just don't want to do that work. They say, I want to start a restaurant. Yeah, that makes them look really prestigious and all that, but they're not ready for it. And it takes way too much money. It's way too risky with, you have to get it right the first time or you're broke. That's dumb. A very dumb way to go about doing it. You're much better off getting into a business that takes little to nothing to get in. Doesn't have much total profit potential, but because the market's so small, it's overlooked. You start making money there. You take the money you're making, you get into a little bit bigger niche. You start making money there, and then you get into the real niche you want in. You want to start running restaurants? Well, you do that after you get a medium-sized or small to medium-sized niche market campaign working. and you just parlay like an ice cube tray, fill in an ice cube tray up. One goes to the next and funds the next one. And then you get to the in business that you want to get into, where you sit back in a desk all day in the back room and you make money, which everybody wants to do. But usually you have to have a lot of resources to have a business like that that'll work with no input, right? Like a restaurant. Versus you have the pool leak detection service company and you're the one that has to answer the phone, because somebody who you pay to answer it is going to be too expensive and they're not going to answer the calls right. And they're not going to do the quotes right. And you start doing it yourself, and then you hire somebody, and then you're off to the races. Caruso, what do you think is an undertapped market that will blow up in the near future? By and large, it's a kind of, I don't have time to really answer that in detail, but pretty much anything in the like AI space is so still undertapped. Now, a lot of it's hype, surely, and there's a lot of bullshit products out there. But, just anything, so like back in 2010, mobile apps really hit mainstream. There was so many millionaires that were made because most businesses didn't have an app for their business. And then you would create one or a SaaS product for that business. Now, all that's kind of like tapped out. But now the thing is developing specific narrow AI for certain business niche types. So, for instance, one would be like if you want to, in the cash for houses business where people buy houses and flip them, create a narrow AI that would scan the MLS for underpriced houses that are for sale, and then do an auto bid that would lowball the person, or go on to Craigslist and lowball the person on every single vehicle that is of this make and this model and this year that's priced under XYZ price. That also just shits out leads. AI can do this stuff now, but people really haven't caught up to it yet. And you develop the AI, and then you either sell access to it or you sell it outright to a big player, and then you're made your million, you're out. That would be like if you were a real go-getter and real smart. That's what the type of thing I would personally get into. Or you could do it the slow, boring way. Start the pool leak detection service business. And it's a guaranteed lock just as well. It's going to be slower. The quicker you want to make money, generally speaking, the more innovation that needs to be done. You got to be able to fix a bigger problem. The AI has the potential to be fixing bigger problems than your small local service market itself. Hi, Luca. What's going on, man? B4X. Talk about caveman and GLSA. There's kind of a meme. I had a short where I talked about how local service ads are so easy, even a caveman could do it. And V4X thinks it's the funniest thing in the world that I had made that short. But the reality is it's true. And I always rant about that. I bring that same thing up time and time again, because local service ads, everybody's complaint is, I need more calls. I need more calls. They're like pure liquid cash when you get one of those calls. But of course, when everybody knows what something is like that and everybody wants them, supply is going to be short. And then you have to figure out, everybody thinks AI is going to take over all marketing. But when AI is doing all the marketing and everything is the same, what's the consumer going to do? And of course, the ad platforms are just going to raise the price until where nobody is making money. And then you have to go back to square one, figuring out where your edge is again. At the end of the day, you don't want something to be so easy where it's 3 button clicks and it's done, because there's not going to be any profit in it. That's just the way that it is. It's too easy to get in. There's no profit. Karulazol, what's your thoughts on the faceless IG and TT pages, like the Young Monk vids? So faceless channels. So it's similar to like the Google Ads program. I talk about how Google Ads is, anybody's welcome in, but the people who are the best at advertising are going to get all the money. And faceless channels, it's the same way, right? Anybody can do it. Do you have the skill level to put together content in an interesting enough way with the edits and the cuts and everything to capture people's attention longer than other people doing it. And if you can, you make millions. And if you can't, you don't. And just like anybody could pick up a basketball in high school and go to the NBA if they're good enough, it's really the same concept. And so with that, what you just got to ask yourself, what are you naturally inclined, good at, and stick with that. If you think you're good at, math and consumer psychology, you try to make money making the best ad campaign for maybe a mundane product that you just win on the ad side, or you do the faceless channel because you're good at editing. You got to try stuff, figure out what you're good at. When you're not good at something, try something else. And in your 20s, it should be the time when you're trying everything and then just seeing what you're good at and what you're not good at. And then once you find something good, just ride it out. Just do it more and better than anybody else. Because the cream always rises to the top, right? There is no oversaturated. There's just different levels of difficulty. But if you're truly the best, you're going to win anyway. Hey, Drakon. Hey, Hamza. Playfully conscious. I'm targeting a high-ticket niche. The problem I am facing is giving them a certainty as a beginner. How do I position myself? So, naturally, nobody wants, including yourself, wants to buy from some, unproven product or company or whatever, because who wants to be the guinea pig that gets ripped off when there's at least other viable options? When there's no other options, it doesn't necessarily apply. So for me, the answer to, at least if we're talking about pay-per-click here, to win as an unproven player is have a better website that is designed better, have a better ad campaign, but also niching down. So just like what we were talking about before, if I'm going to do a leak detection service, why not just pick one sub niche, pool leak detection services, and just market that until I'm making money at it? Why? Because the other competition that I have isn't going to want to bother doing that. And because I put the actual work in to make it look like I specialize in it, I don't have to have 100 Google reviews with a 4.9 rating to win. I don't. Why? Because people weight being a niche specialist more heavily than anything else. Just like in our space, I still to this day have got people that are going to hire a car dealer marketing firm over my services, even though they don't have PPC experts, but they're going to want them to manage their PPC ads because they specialize in car dealerships, when really it doesn't matter that much. Honestly, it does some, but they'll go with them over me, even though I can talk 10 times more intelligently than their PPC guy can, because they're a specialist and that's what people want. So if you want to win by default with no history and time in business, you just niche down. That's literally the easiest way to do it. Alvaro Munoz, do you think starting a pay-per-click lead business is worth it, or stick with retainers? Everybody, I think, that gets into doing pay-per-click marketing services goes and they ask themselves this at some point in time. It's like your rite of passage, if you will, to get to the other side of where you're going to make and become wealthy doing this if you're good enough. It seems tempting at surface level, instead of dealing with this whole pay me a monthly fee and I'll manage your ads nonsense, where you got irrational clients that you're dealing with sometimes and so on and so forth. I'll just sell them the leads and then I cut out all the nonsense. I don't have to talk about what I'm doing. It's just black and white. The reality is, once you start selling leads, buddy, then they start complaining about lead quality. Why? Because they suck at sales, and you tell them they suck at sales, they're going to get offended and pissed, and they're going to expect you to quit lying to them and just provide some better leads already. People that are just lay down, oh, just take my credit card. Oh, I don't need to know anything. Just take my damn credit card. That's what they want as far as a lead. So unless you're going to provide that to them, they're going to complain about lead quality because it goes hand in hand. If you suck at PPC, you're going to suck at sales most of the time, which is why I mentioned earlier, you should do live transfers. If you're going to do that, that's a viable method. You generate the lead, you have a call center. Call center calls them, they qualify them, they get them ready to book. You book them on that person's calendar, you charge per booking. You can do that as one variation of providing a PPC service. But if you're going to do it, in my opinion, that's the only way, because people that need leads also don't know how to sell. If they knew how to sell, they probably know some about marketing. They're not going to need your services. And I know people will probably start yelling at the screen just from what I said there, but I've been around a long time. These things kind of go hand in hand in a way. So in other words, you just get different problems. And for that matter, you start selling hot transfers and then you start scaling that up. It's not as easy to scale that as what you would think. I know people that have went that route and they tell me it's not easy to scale either, managing the clients and then you have the call center. So, there's no shortcut to this. You still need to build loyal clients that are going to buy your leads consistently and not shut you on and off all the time and all this stuff. It's not like a shortcut to get to making millions and, selling your expertise, so to say, in this space. Carousel. So you think building and selling agents will be the future? It is going to be for the next 10 years until it gets saturated like the SaaS products and mobile apps did. We're still so early in the game that the average business doesn't know anything about AI, really. Or very little, right? This is almost like getting in on selling websites in 1992. Nobody knows how to make a damn website. Of course, it's easy to make money when you know how to make websites. And then eventually it's so commonplace that it doesn't work anymore. So they've heard of AI automating business. They just don't know how to do it. And they know they're going to, in the back of their mind, they have to do this. So when you go to them saying, I have an AI that I have made or can sell you that's going to automate XYZ process in your business, and I'll prove you it works before you have to buy it, pretty much everybody's going to want to set up a sales meeting with you. And then it's just a matter of, can you actually deliver or not? Playfully conscious. I am targeting high ticket niche. The problem I'm facing is giving them as a beginner. How do I position myself? So I already kind of answered that question. Dollar bill. How much of a game changer is retargeting on demand gen / display for B2B? We've recently added those and cut the popular brands from to try to get profitable. We're an e-tailer in construction. So retargeting, even with the best front-end targeting on demand gen campaigns, we're going to do an ROI of 5 to 10x of what the front-end first click traffic is going to do if you've done the remarketing right, to tell you how much of a difference that makes. And of course, it gets the front end to work better because people usually don't buy on just seeing the ad and clicking through it the first time, particularly for higher ticket. So, and for that matter, Facebook guys seem to get it. Like remarketing matters. You have to do remarketing. But on Google, people just overlook it completely. And mainly because Facebook's tracking is set up to give you credit for somebody seeing the ad and then buying, even though they don't click through it, whereas Google doesn't. And therefore, they don't think it works. So I use remarketing on 95% of the clients' campaigns that we work on because it matters that much to our overall return on investment on our ad spend. So yes, it matters. And then I would say even more so on the B2B side, because I don't know what B2B niche you're in, but like, for instance, in our own niche and PPC management services, the average time someone's going to think over switching agencies is going to be at least a year, because you don't switch one day. Your PPC guy pisses you off. You cuss him out, but it's going to be hard to switch. And then he pisses you off again, and then pisses you off again, and then pisses you off again. And then you're thinking like, maybe I should switch. And maybe I'll look into some agencies. It takes a long, long time before people are going to have the balls to actually switch. And if I'm not remarketing during that whole time, then by the time they actually do switch, they forgot about whatever they said to me already, and they're going to go with whoever they just recently talked to this week. That's kind of the way that it is. So you got to think about what you're doing usually in B2B. The remarketing is most of the legs of everything you're doing to do demand gen in the first place, as is follow-up. Any good B2B salesman is going to tell you follow-up is everything. Well, if follow-up is everything, retargeting is also everything. They're one and the same. Caruso, it sounds like niching down would be easier to become profitable faster. It always will be more profitable. The downside of niching down, though, is you have a smaller total addressable market, or TAM. So if you are, instead of a leak detection service, you are a pool leak detection service, you take in a market like, let's say the size of Orlando, you take your total addressable market and revenue thereof from $1 million a year down to 200,000. But it took, whereas you can make 5 times less money as a whole, it becomes profitable 5 times faster, in exchange, which is why I say that if I'm starting out today with zero money, zero resources, I'm going to pick a micro niche. I'm going to make money there first, and then I'm going to use my money there to get into a bigger niche later on versus going after the big niche right away. Generally, that's going to be the way to go about it. Luca, what do you think about finding less technical niches? For example, selling fireplace wood, which has seasonal demand on its own, and people search on their own, just creating a website and ranking them. Well, yeah, for me, those highly seasonal businesses just like that, where you literally will have half of the year where there's like no customers, I don't like, it wouldn't be a business for me because, what am I going to do the other half of the year? I guess you could, like, for instance, guys that sell like lawn care, they'll sell snow shoveling in the wintertime to kind of like have something to do at all the times. And they'll have like 2 different businesses in effect, ultimately. So you could do that. But of course, with the upside though being, if you go after the firewood company, nobody wants to be able to only have an income 6 months out of the year because they have bills they have to pay all the year. So it's going to be super easy to get into and super profitable right away. So maybe you get into that and then you go into investing in something that will work the other half of the year or what have you. I think that's hopefully I answered your question, Luca. If not, let me know. Alvaro, do you implement bid adjustments on demographics, audiences, location targeting, and ad schedule? If so, how often do you update the adjustments? So first of all, with Google Ads, you cannot do bid adjustments that actually factor into the bidding algorithm when you're in smart bidding, maximize conversions, maximize conversion value bidding strategy. If you're using manual bidding, the bid adjustments you do on each one of these levels will factor in. Now, that said, with smart bidding, you can just shut them off. You can just pause, male, female, old, young, whatever. You can do that. So, and then because I already know through our testing that we did at our firm already a few years ago, that you can usually do more profit with smart bidding than manual bidding, I don't adjust the bids at all. That said, some accounts we'll have some new campaigns in manual bidding for a little longer, and then we'll do bid adjustments every quarter on those ones still in manual to get the most out of them. And I made a great video on how to mathematically calculate your bid adjustment for each one of these different dimensions, taking the current cost per conversion or ROAS compared to your account average and know exactly precisely what to make the bid adjustment. Also factoring in that there's a bid adjustment likely already there to how to mathematically calculate how much up or down it should go every 90 days. That would be the best way to do it. At least the best way I've found to do it. Knowing that once you get 50 plus conversions, smart bidding is still going to do better than any of your manual bidding for the most part. Unless you're, there are some times where manual bidding will work because you just simply cannot, for sure that you cannot pay over a certain cost per click or you're not profitable, then manual bidding might be handy. Also, when you're having issues with click fraud, you use manual bidding on the audience level to kind of weed out some of the click fraud. Anyway, getting a bit off track. Mustafa, would you do remarketing for a one-time buy service? Example, cash for junk car? Yeah, that's a good question. So I never did set up remarketing when I set up campaigns in that space before. Not to say that it wouldn't be helpful at all, but generally speaking, the longer the average sales cycle window, the more the remarketing helps your ROI on your ad spend overall. So in the B2B example, it's like extremely important because nobody decides right away, even after they fill out the form right away. If you're going to sell your junk car, you probably want to sell it today. You've got a day off, you're ready to sell it. You're going to call 3 of these places. You're going to sell it today. Therefore, the remarketing is going to have way, way less effect than your ROI. That said, some guys are going to be stragglers. They're going to spend a couple weeks thinking about it, and that matters. But at the same time, in that space also as well, what matters? Who's going to give me the most money? So what am I going to say on my remarketing ad that's going to compel them to go with me at a higher rate than I could say otherwise? Because normally it's usually price is an issue, but it's not the only factor. In that market, price is 95% of the factor of who they go with. So what can I say? Industry lowest prices. Well, they already got the quote. They know it's not the lowest. Maybe what you could do on remarketing though in that scenario is say guaranteed best rate for your used car, or we'll give you $100 Outback Steakhouse gift card. So at least if you weren't the lowest price, because you don't know what your competitors are bidding, it's like poker, they would come to you saying, Joe Schmo offered me this. And you could say, oh, okay, in order to be eligible for the program, you got to send me a written quote from the other company and be happy to honor that quote and buy the car still. Knowing that if they were willing to offer X, you could probably offer X as well. And that you aren't going to make what you want to make, but you're still making a little and it's good enough. Something like that could actually help. Or you could say on your remarketing ad, get an extra $100 payout if you respond to this ad today. We're running a 24-hour flash sale, something like this. So there's value you could add to the user, but it's important you guys realize that remarketing, people should get value out of your remarketing in and itself. Yes, there's value in just saying what you do again so that you drill your brand name into the user's head so they see you as a brand in your space and therefore want to do business with you just because of this. But there's no reason why you can't understand what would move the needle in the user's mind while they're trying to decide who to go with by saying something productive on that ad. And a lot of times it can just be a testimonial, but what is it that would move the needle? Use the ad space and the opportunity you have to say something that might tip them over the edge, actually. Dollar Bill, thanks. We've been waiting a couple days for the retargeting campaign to start. We recently reached out to Google to report the glitch to them. Yeah, sometimes it takes a couple days for remarketing campaigns to start triggering. It could be your audience is not big enough too, by the way. Playfully, what is your option? What is your opinion on home security niche like cameras, smart locks, and becoming a specialist in that? So I have seen several businesses trying to be a home security company and basically failing miserably. Why? Because that space is heavily dominated by brands like ADT, because if you're going to hire somebody to install a security system, I don't want somebody who's going to sell my security data to a criminal and then they're going to come rob me blind later on, like on that Breaking Bad show. That's what the pest control company did, right? They made side cash selling the tips on and copying the keys and all this other shit. So how are you going to convince somebody that you're the top security specialist when you don't have 10 plus years in business and you're a brand name and everybody knows you? You're just going to go with the one that everybody knows. It's going to be really hard to get somebody to believe you and get started. So now you could have little niche products like a smart lock that doesn't take quite as much trust itself and just specialize in that. That could be a way to go about doing things for yourself. And in fact, if I had to go into that space, that's what I would do. I would create a smartlocksystems.com or smartlockshouston.com, and I would just do that one thing in that city that I'm in. Because going back to the niche thing, nobody niches down that way. And so they're going to think I'm the best at it. And I can overcome not having any history by being a niche specialist. Mustafa, how would you choose a micro niche if you had to do it virtually? Say, if you are not in America, would you team up with a business owner in the US? Well, realistically, if you're good at marketing, there's not much value in actually executing the delivery of whatever it is. And you can hire your own employees to go out and run if we're talking about services here still, to run the jobs and all that. So now, your quality is going to be better if you have your own guys doing it, that you're paying on salary and whatnot. And I have seen people remotely hire people in the US to do the work and get it done properly. That's tricky. You're better off, much better off, hiring somebody who is a small business owner who doesn't know how to market at all and just sub it out to them. And pick something that's easy enough to sub out. Because if it's something like home remodeling, it's going to be a nightmare, because all the good people who really are good at home remodeling, they don't have a problem getting business anymore. They get referrals. They don't need your leads. The people that suck need your leads badly. So you're going to have them do the work under your name. Then you get the bad reviews. And then you're going to play this game of whack-a-mole, having to start up other companies after, your reviews are trash. And find something that can be executed, like, let's say, mold testing, that can be executed by a bonehead, and it can't be fucked up. And then you could hire your guy full time to do it. But even before then, as you're starting to get your foot in the door, just sub it out to somebody in that market already. Or if they won't take a little enough price to get a margin on it, like what we've done in that market, to give you a perfect example, is to hire home inspectors to do the mold tests. You charge $300 for a mold test, and you pay a home inspector $100 to go run the mold test, which all you do is you bring in a little like air pump with a filter on it, and they go run it in that room for an hour, and then they take the test and they ship it to a certain address where the lab tests it, and that's it. A caveman could do it, going back to that whole example. So, what we did in that space was we would just contact home inspectors that are struggling. They need money. And then, hey, I have this mold detection lead, and I have a bunch more of them coming in. Our guy just quit. You want these leads? I'll pay you $100 a test. All you got to go there is spend an hour at the location, take the test, send it to this address, you're done. And you get that going, make enough money, get the volume up enough to hire your own guy, and then just hire your own guy, and then have more consistency in the work. So you can have better upsells, cross sells, ratchet up your lifetime value and profitability that way. Make sure your reviews are ratcheted up as high as possible, so you get organic rankings going in addition to having the ads going and the rest of it. Caruso. So for a competitive market such as TRT or hair loss in telehealth, how long or how much spend at a loss before break even? No, for that, no more than 90 days. It's really not that complex. And in that space, by the way, nobody's hardly doing this. But if you can do immediate on-the-spot assessments, that crushes it. That's like the new thing that's going to be mainstream someday that just hasn't been mainstream yet. So in other words, for TRT, allow somebody to do a video consultation with the in-house specialist as soon as they fill out the form. Fill out this form for immediate TRT analysis to tell you, how much you're going to benefit from this. And then it right away goes to a Zoom link, something like that. Just as a small side tip, that'd be a way to get your ROI up much faster because you actually have that person's captive attention. Once somebody's gotten on that video call, you basically got them. Okay. Versus they fill out the form. Half of them even get back to you. Of the half you talk to, half of them show up for their appointment. It's just way more efficient that way. Playfully conscious again. What is your opinion on home security niche selling cameras, smart AI locks boosting their B2C sales using GBP optimization, meta ads, and retargeting? So you basically already asked me about this, but the main thing is that at least with Google ads, you're going to want to set up unique campaigns targeting each individual service and use a SCAG model if you want to get the most out of it. That'd be my call for meta ads. Ultimately, I would say that I'm going to have to run without a long funnel, which there's ways to generate, business where you could start off with an ad that says crime rates in XYZ neighborhood has went up 287% in the last year. See why, and send them to a news article. And if they read the news article all the way, then they're on a retargeting list for, security services. You can do that kind of stuff, but most people aren't going to want to go through and then try to sell to lukewarm leads like that. So in that case, I'm going to just say 50% off smart, locks, this week only, submit your form, something like this, which you may not be able to offer at 50% off, which is why you may have to raise your prices a little bit and then just have a special. So you have room to offer a special like that to begin with. I know that's kind of sketchy, but that's what people are doing with Facebook ads. I tell people all the time, you guys, on Facebook ads, they say, our competitors are running all these ridiculous offers. I don't want to do that. Well, they're making tons of money doing that because their offer is actually interesting. And you're trying to go there and say, I offer AI smart locks. Please hire me. And then nobody gives a shit about what you're saying or doing. They just don't give a shit. So you can be all high and mighty and be up in your 10,000 foot ivory tower all you want. You're just not going to make any money. And, you can waste your money on that. I would think burning your money would be more fun than that. But, different people have different kinks. Sorry for the double messages. Yeah, no problem. I understand. Tribal Helix team. Hey, Corey, thanks as always. Best tips for running an account for store visit conversions. Business is a local restaurant running PMAX, search, and old school smart shopping. Yeah. For the most part, I don't know how much volume you need. That generally speaking, the best is if you're an Italian restaurant, show up for Italian restaurants near me and all that stuff on Google search. I'm also going to run Facebook ads and just target people who like Italian food. I don't know what type of restaurant it is, but that stuff's pretty tried and true for restaurants. You also can do in the restaurant space, a lot of money is made on drinks. Well, if you can get people in for parties, you can make a shitload of money on drinks. So you can run on Facebook, a campaign so that for a birthday party special, a package deal and get leads that way. And that's also very successful as well. So you can do that. The main thing is that for a restaurant, it's very expensive to get someone in the door. And what people do, which makes them fail, is they don't pay attention to lifetime value of a customer. And you need to get a certain amount of value out of each person that you're getting in through the door, no matter what you're picking. Otherwise, the math isn't going to math. So when somebody comes in, you got to have a way to keep them at least 3 times so that they're going to be a loyal customer for the long term, because that's where all the money is. And you got to, generally speaking, offer them a discount voucher on the first, second visit so that they at least come in 3 times. And it's got to be a part of a system. Nobody wants to do this. But if you don't, they come in once and never again, you're at a net negative loss ROI on your ad campaign. Sorry, but if you want to know how to take something from nothing and turn it into millions, you got to get craftier about it. I could go into some other methods, but I won't. That should get you started though. More jazz, more ass. If you were launching ads for a fencing company from zero, would you start with Google or Facebook first? And what would your first campaigns look like? I've also set up campaigns for fencing company before. Generally speaking, Google is the tried and true. So there's always everybody's always saying, particularly for like local services, should I do Google or Facebook first? Look, they both work. All right. Facebook is going to generate cheaper leads, but they're going to be less qualified. You're going to have to do a better job on the sales front to make it work. But if you do know how to sell and set up a good sales funnel, it's more profitable than Google, particularly short-term. Long-term, about the same as Google per customer in terms of ROI. Google customers, you don't have to know very much about sales at all. Nothing, but a lot less, because the person just wants a quote when they call. You can just send them out, a person out, give them the quote, and you're pretty much good already. And of course, on Facebook, you're going to have to do more quotes to get a deal, because these people are getting contacted by all the other fencing companies. Once they respond to your ad, Google's going to show all the other fencing companies ads that are advertising in your local market. And you're going to have all this gas and all this time giving all these quotes to people that are just wasting your time. So the leads are cheaper, but they're less. They not only they close at a lesser rate, but you have all this extra added expense to just close one deal that people don't consider or factor in. So for that, I'm going to do Google. I just want the best quality first, instead of running all over town to do a certain amount of deals. But then I'm going to quickly, as soon as Google makes money, I'm going to go into Facebook. And Google, I also picked that because I understand how to have a competitive edge in that space automatically. SCAG campaigns, custom landing pages for different fence types. So then when they're searching for chain link fence installation Dallas, I have an ad that says chain link fence installation Dallas. So my ad always gets picked first, and I send them to a chain link installation Dallas landing page, and I can win by default. And then on Facebook, I can try, now that I have some runway, I can test some different offers. What do I need to do to get people excited enough to give me their ad? Chain link installation, 20% off for St. Patrick's Day or whatever. And then get that going. Mustafa, is there a way to find micro niche selling somewhere virtual, so fulfilling the order myself? That way I won't be limited to one city or business owner? Well, I don't know why you would be limited to one city or business owner just because it's not virtual. Because it doesn't make any logical sense. If you're going to work with wheelchair ramp installation companies, then you would just start it in one city and then move your campaign to do it in all the rest of the cities. It's pretty simple. Maybe I'm not catching something. The reality is everybody wants to sell something virtual or sell something that's very cheap because it's not hard to do. Just know if you're going to go that route, for what time and grief you save yourself on the logistics side and the delivery, you're going to have to be spending even more trying to get your ad campaigns to work, generally speaking, right? So you have to pick your battle, what you think you want to focus on more. Because I could tell you, like selling, let's say courses, that's not easy to do. You have to really know what you're doing on the marketing front. But when it works, there's no headache. It's very scalable, right? It's just, you're just gonna have to really know your shit to get that to work. Whereas getting a PPC campaign to work, selling wheelchair ramp installation services, that you can get that working in a weekend, practically speaking. So, not to say one's better than the other. Just got to be able to know that, like a course or something like that's going to be harder to get to a positive ROI, even though there's no overhead, because everybody wants to do that essentially. Okay. Looks like we got time for one more question here, and then we're at the end of the list. Carousel. Are there any tools that you're using to collect/organize everything you're learning? Do you use Obsidian? I don't know what Obsidian is, but I'm going to Google it to find out what it is, see if I know what this is. No, I definitely don't use that or anything like that. Knowledge is, people think that you go to college to gain knowledge, which is very quickly becoming outdated. In the future, even my own kids, I'm not going to, even though they're teenagers now, not recommending they go to college, because what's the point? By the time they get out of college, anything they've learned already is pretty much going to be irrelevant due to AI, or at least very much changed to whatever they read in the book. It's already outdated by the time they get out of college. What's the point? Relationships are what matter. Who you know matters more than going to that school. And unless you're going to go there to meet people, which is most of the value. But even then, you could learn more online in a year if you just spent a year researching stuff than you could in 4 years in college anyway. So, but learning should be a progressive thing that you do throughout your life, and you just compound your knowledge. So it's funny how it works. So you learn one thing and you think it's interesting, and then you see something later on and you see how this links to this. And then, but the more you study, the more you see how everything is basically linked together in some way. And then it becomes very useful and easy for you to know how to win in business, because you understand what moves people, what they respond to, what they don't respond to, what they like, what they don't like, how to get people motivated, how to get people to follow you, what they is going to turn them away, and so forth. Half of business is just understanding how to get people to do something that they wouldn't normally otherwise do. And half of it just comes down to math and knowing your numbers and following the numbers. So I spend on my free time, I don't really have hobbies outside of work other than I read stuff and I study how stuff works. And it really, I just do that because I want to stay current, but I want to compound my knowledge over time. So I have more and more accurate decision making in my own business. And without doing that, it's never just going to be, good. Most people are only going to study stuff once they need to know something. You should proactively be just looking at stuff like on social media, even though it sounds and looks dumb sometimes, to see what people are doing. What are the trends? Why are these people doing what they're doing? And then trying to apply that to your knowledge database, if you will. And, ultimately in my opinion, that's what separates out the people that are really going to get ahead and the ones that are not, because it's the knowledge that and the be able to apply that knowledge that's going to be able to make you smarter than the competition when you run into a problem in business. And when everybody else has surface level knowledge and you have this complex knowledge, you win by default. It's very similar to how people say, all the time, people will reach out wanting to work with us at our agency, and they'll say other PPC companies, the person that was working for them at the agency, they say they knew about ads, but they didn't know anything about my business. And it's like, I could already tell you why that is. It's because they're not intellectually curious about anything. They don't ever ask why. Why is this? Why does it work like that? Why don't we do it a different way? They just want to learn how to do the button clicking and then have somebody pay them to do the button clicking. But that doesn't work to make money in business. You have to be able to think outside the box. And once you do, you're just going to win because nobody else does that, right? They just want to follow the instructions. And that's not where money's going to be made. It's for sure not going to be made like that in the future. When AI can do repetitive tasks in 2 seconds, you're going to have to be able to think outside the box to be able to win it all. So that said, I'm going to wrap it up with that. I have another call I have to get on here, but I appreciate all the questions you guys asked. I had a lot of questions just about general business this week, which was interesting, and niche selection and so forth, which to be a good pay-per-click manager, you're going to have to be good at business. And it's going to get that way more and more with AI and automation. The part of the campaign that's going to give you your edge is going to be the strategy. That's going to be the only thing left to do, because all the monotony part of it is all going to be done by AI in 5 years. So, it's headed that way, guys. Anyway, thank you for coming. I'll see you next week. I'll see you also in a couple of days for our live Q&A update, where we have 3 of the guys with their campaigns and see what they're up to as well. So see you later.